Well, welcome to part three, interviewing and negotiating of FASTSIP's academic job search series. This is the last pre-workshop webinar in this series. And if you've been following along, part one has really been about the application process of finding the right fit for you when you're applying for a faculty position. Part two, if you missed it, was all about strategies and discussion about how to develop strong application materials to get an interview. And then certainly now part three is really about the interview process, what to expect, strategies when you're approaching it, and what to do and how to negotiate a little bit when, if and when you get your offer. Again, the key goal now is to land that job. So you're interviewing, you are presenting, you're going to negotiate the offer and get that faculty position. So I want to go back to what we looked at in part two, which was some perspectives from search committee members. So there were a couple papers that were published just looking and interviewing with members of faculty search committees across the United States. And again, what information do they wish more candidates knew when they submit their application? The research proposal, the chalk talk, and collegiality were some of the top words that came out of those interviews. It's really important to be able to establish what your research is, how you're going to do it, and then how you're going to be as a colleague, as a collaborator, as a member of the department. And in fact, there's been some follow-up data to show that, for example, this is just like an informal Twitter poll, but faculty search committee members weighed in on during the interview stage, what's the most important thing that can factor into a selection of a candidate? And by far, the top two things that kind of go hand in hand, your overall attitude and vibe, who you are collegially, and then again, the quality of your chalk talk, your ability to communicate your science effectively to a diverse range of audience members. So those are some of the things that we're going to focus on the most today. Certainly in your application materials, and then during your interview, showcasing your fit for that role is going to be really important. There's kind of the functional aspect of it and the communal. Functional is, why this particular job, why this institution? Are they looking for a specific expert in something? Are they looking for a specific teacher? What topics? How do you fit into the department? So if you're going to be expected to teach, what courses can you teach? Did you look that up in a course catalog? Did you identify any new courses that you might to develop to grow and diversify that course catalog? How does your research fit? What's innovative about it? What is complementary to the rest of the team in the department? Can you collaborate with anyone currently? Those are all functional aspects of the research you're doing and the teaching you're doing, and then certainly the communal. Are you a good collaborator? What evidence do you have to talk about to show that? Are you a good communicator? How will you be in this role as a colleague? Are you someone that is calm, cool, and collected when you're doing your chalk talk? Are you someone that is extroverted or introverted? Not necessarily either of those matter, but how are you going to be as a colleague? How are you going to fit in? And so any opportunity that you have to remember that why and showcase it in your interview, during your application, in your conversations with the search committee or other members of the department is going to do two things for you. One, show that you're qualified to do the job and the research that they need done, but also getting that search committee and getting those members of that faculty department to envision you as a member of their team. So one way that you can demonstrate fit is to do something called the you do, I do approach, which is showcasing your research about the department and then emulating and showing how you also value that. So for example, your fit with the department. This is just an example. Like your department emphasizes rigorous research methods by requiring faculty to register methods on GitHub. I really support that commitment as I've registered my own work on open access sources, and I strongly believe in that ideal. So you found online that the department really cares about open access. And now you're showing not only are you acknowledging that you know this, but that's also something that you emulate and also value importantly in your own experience. So again, you're highlighting something that you learned about them, and then how do you approach it that mimics that? Same thing with faculty fit or program initiative fit, identifying what are some of the things that faculty are doing that you care about. I've been reading that so-and-so in the department works on social economic factors and stress response. I am very interested in collaborating with that because those are factors that I incorporate into my research as well, or would like to incorporate into my research as well. So again, identifies that you're learning about the faculty that are there seeing how you fit in and play in the sandbox with them. Same thing by doing that with the program and the initiative fit, and then the curriculum. I saw in catalog courses X and Y that I could teach, and I'm excited to bring my perspective on this other topic to these courses, or develop a new course that's not in the catalog at all. So again, showing that you've done your research on the department will get the faculty search committee and the members that you're interviewing with excited about who you are, knowing that you care about the university and they weren't just another open position on a list that you did a broad approach to, and then how you would be able to support the department and grow it. So when you do your first round interviews, typically this is how the search committee is going to decide whom to invite for a campus visit. So the first round is usually online. It might be in person if you're local, but you can expect it to be a couple hours long. You might meet with the full search committee. You might be, a string of one-on-one conversations, and you might even be asked to give a brief research presentation. They might talk about your teaching philosophy, what your communication style is, get a sense of your professional presence, and get an idea of your research and funding strategies. So this is really the ability of the search committee to start really getting to know some of the candidates and really narrow down the list that they want to spend the time and the resources to come to campus and do a visit and really interact with the rest of the department. So this is kind of typically the first round. And again, who you can always ask, like, who will be on the call, review their backgrounds, get a sense of who's going to be asking you questions, and then consider that you are likely going to be talking to researchers that are familiar and maybe not as familiar with the type of research you do. So be sure that you can communicate to a large group of different people that are scientifically trained, but may not necessarily be experts in your particular field. To prepare for this type of interview, it can be important to practice concise response. Again, do your homework. The committee members will notice if you're mentioning things about the university, new initiatives, new grant opportunities. Ask thoughtful questions that reflect your values and help assess department fit. What core facilities are available? What might you be purchasing with your funding? What is the student population like? Are there networking opportunities? Gives us a sense of the types of things that you would want to do and be a part of once you're there as a colleague. Certainly common interview questions that you're going to likely get in some form is, why are you interested in this role? Why this specific university? So what is it about the University of Nebraska that interests you? Or what is it about Texas A&M that interests you that you want to apply and be part of that team in that department? Where do you see the field in 5 years? And then, of course, what resources will you need for your research? Certainly, if you are applying at an R2 institution and you require, a superconfocal microscope and spatial transcriptomics and a tissue preparation kit that aren't available there, the faculty may wonder, do you understand the resources of the type of institution you're applying for? So again, doing some background, even some informational interview to get a sense of that can really help you figure out how you're going to fit in there. Now, on campus, what you can expect is that if you are brought in for a campus interview, they typically last a day or two, and it will be a deep dive into who you are and the work. Oftentimes, especially in the later rounds, you could consider yourself to be a finalist if you're brought in for a campus interview. You may even be invited to bring your family along too to get a sense of the location. If your partner or spouses are on the job market, this is important to bring up to the search committee early on, even in that first phone or Zoom interview, to let them know that you are, part of the two-body problem and that your partner or spouse is looking for a job. That can often make it really helpful for the search committee who, if they really want you on campus, to start figuring out maybe opportunities for your partner or for a spouse. So don't hide that fact. It's important to really talk about it. Common components or things that you might expect to do when you interview on campus is to give some kind of research talk or seminar with students, faculty, postdocs, many members of the department and beyond. You could expect to have some kind of chalk talk or interaction about your research with the search committee, invited faculty, and department chair. For teaching intensive roles, you may be asked to give a teaching demonstration. You might have individual meetings with individual faculty, especially those that might be interested in collaborating with you. Students, it's a chance to get a sense of the faculty from a different perspective. Meals, both formal and informal, tours, and then ideally some meetings with leadership, such as with the dean or other senior administrators that are going to facilitate infrastructural support for your research. Remember that, anytime you're meeting with someone, you are, on the clock, so to speak. So even networking meals, whether they are formal or informal, you want to put your best foot forward, and be as, collegial and as professional as possible. So when you're giving an effective research talk, there are some ways to do this that can be really effective. Everyone in the room is not going to be an expert in your topic. So setting the stage early is important. What's the problem? And hook that audience early. Try and get everyone in that room engaged with what you're going to be working at. Try to keep it accessible. Try to avoid super technical jargon, especially if you're doing just a department-wide seminar talk. You will have people there that will not know the techniques you're using and will likely check out and listening if they think that you're going to be in too much detail on that. So focus on some key results, the purpose of your work and the impact of it, and then the technical details you can save for your chalk talk. Again, showing your fit, highlight collaboration opportunities and how your work complements and grows the department. Engage your audience, use visuals to clarify complex ideas. Feel free to kind of talk with your audience and then leave time for questions. They are going to try and get a sense of who you are and how you react in the now. So if you are slotted a 60-minute talk and you use 58 minutes of that, you're likely going to annoy people in the audience who are there to have a conversation with you, not just hear you talk for an hour about your research. So, cut it short, 40, 45 minutes, and leave ample opportunity to really get a chance to engage with your potential colleagues and collaborators. Now, the chalk talk, you can expect to be a little bit different. It's going to be informal. You may not even be allowed presentation slides, and it could literally be a marker and a board or a projector. But that is going to be the deep dive into your research vision and strategy. Typically, and this will be detailed when you get the opportunity and the offer to do a chalk talk, you won't get slides or visual aids, and you have limited time to give a comprehensive overview. So you will have a limited audience. Again, generally the search committee, important faculty that are going to be aware of the research you're doing. They're going to be tasked with asking challenging questions. Oftentimes, search committees will even identify who's going to ask what question to get you to be thinking on your feet. And the idea here is really to get you to defend your ideas and share your perspectives. It should be very collegial, and you can get a sense of the department if they're coming in and really aggressive in the way that they are asking about your research. But they want to know what your vision is, your first year vision, your fifth year vision, what types of funding you're going to be looking at, maybe different ways you can grow out the projects that you're going to be looking at. The faculty are evaluating the rigor of your work. Are you effective, rigorous, and capable of carrying out your proposed work? Can you clearly communicate that work? Do you have funding potential? Where are you going to get funding from? Private, government, industry, within the university? Have you conveyed this convincingly? And then how have you prepared? How have you structured the important points of your talk to clearly outline your vision? And you should really expect challenging questions. If questions cross into unprofessional, aggressive behavior, this may reflect larger departmental interviews. This is something we're going to do in our live workshop, is really assessing situations that will give you input not only on the department, but identifying while they're interviewing them, you should come in with the perspective that you are also interviewing them as well. I'm sorry, while they're interviewing you, you should also come with the perspective that you are interviewing them as well. Other considerations, again, resting when you can. Campus visits can be intense, so take some downtime when offered. If it's perfectly acceptable to request some downtime, go use the bathroom, have a half an hour to relax and compose. And then gather local insights, particularly if you're moving your family to this new location, understanding about the community, the housing market, cost of living, the education, school systems, if it's relevant to you, but really getting a perspective of not only is your fit good for the university, but how are you going to fit into the larger community? After the on-site interview is generally the offer stage. So again, the faculty search committee will review and then decide whom they're going to make an offer to. If and when you get your offer, take some time to carefully review it and consider the entire package. You can also have an employment lawyer look over the language. Know your priorities that you need before getting that offer, what you're going to need to succeed in those first couple years. Does the offer reflect that? Does it not? Other things to also consider would be compensation and benefits, career support, teaching workload, travel. All of these are things that need to be delineated, and things that should be very clear to you when you get your offer. So again, things to consider before you counter or negotiate. What are the must-haves for your salary and benefits? What does, the salary, how much is going to be hard money versus soft money? How often will it be paid? Will you get relocation assistance? Not only these things are things to consider, but these are things you can negotiate as well. Research career development. What's your startup funding package going to be looking like? Is it lump sum or yearly? If it's yearly and you get an R1 grant right away, does that mean that they take the rest of the money away and you're on your grant? Or will you still get the rest of your startup package? Can you use it for equipment or space or remodeling, or is it just for research supplies? Will you get travel support? How many grants or how many committees are you expected to be on? If you're teaching in any capacity, understanding that teaching workload in the first year versus long term is going to be really important. What are the mentorship expectations? What is the tenure clock? What other leadership opportunities will you have access to at the administration at the school? So there is a lot to consider, much more than we can go over here in just a few quick minutes, but we can do a deeper dive in our live workshop. And there are other resources we'll point you to shore up on this. But you can negotiate a lot in your starting package. But the best way to really prepare for a negotiation is to really understand what it is that you value the most before you get to the negotiation stage. And that's what we'll conclude here today with. First, when you're negotiating, setting a positive tone is really important. Making sure that you get all the offers in writing, all the details, so that you can look over it and make sure nothing's confusing. Again, do your homework. Benchmark your salary to other institutions nearby or to other known salaries in the department. Some of that is found online. And again, what are your needs? What are you going to need that's essential for your success to get to tenure or to get to associate professor or to get that first grant? And then frame requests strategically. Show how your requests benefit both you and the institution. They are going to be investing a lot of money in you. And so even though the negotiation process can be tricky and that's something that we all are comfortable doing most of the time, they want you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed. So highlighting that communal benefit can be a really important strategy for you to show them what you need to succeed. And then again, present all your requests at once. Don't piecemeal the negotiation in bad faith. Don't win on one topic and then say, okay, now I want to negotiate that. Put it all up front so that the chair and the search committee understand what it is that you need to succeed. If you can be flexible and compromise in certain aspects, that can be important too. If there are certain things you need more than others, we're going to talk about that in a second. And then again, get everything in writing. So when you're negotiating, finding your reservation point can be an important strategy. So these are your must-haves. So a lot of people, what they do is they even list out like, what is important to me? My salary, for example, my location, my working hours, or my travel. Or it could be your salary, your essential laboratory needs, and what is that reservation point? The bottom line. So a lot of people kind of game this out and they can use different worksheets for it that are found online and one's linked here. So for example, if salary, location, working hours, and travel are the most important to you, you can then give a weight to them. How important are they? Are they all equally important, or is salary, say, the most important aspect and travel the least important? Then you can give yourself a range. So maybe there's a salary range of 90 to 120,000, for example. Ideally, you would get the most money out of a negotiation or a salary, or perhaps if there's a location aspect to the role that you're applying for, maybe there's a preferred location and you can assign a number of points to the outcome the most. Maybe you want to work 40 hours a week, or you only want to travel 10% of the time. The idea is that you identify what's important to you. You can give a general weight to it. You can give what the options are that you would negotiate on, and then you can calculate a point score. And then what happens is when an offer package comes in, you can kind of identify, is this better than your bottom line? Is this closer to your best line? If you are negotiating and evaluating packages from several different institutions and you're in a really fortunate position, you can quickly take a look at how do they rank relatively to your bottom line and your best line. And the idea here is that can help you identify how good of an offer it is, given the things that you value for success and for what you need, and what are the types of things that you might need to negotiate on. And that also helps you identify your BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And two things about the BATNA is that negotiation really is a joint problem that should be solved together. It's not a us versus them or me versus the department. It's what can I convince the department to give to me so that I'm successful? And if I'm successful, that means the department is successful. So this is a joint problem. This is you and the department on the same side figuring out a way to make this work. And so that is one frame of mind to really bring to the table. The BATNA is really what happens if the negotiations fail? And this can help you figure out your reservation point. If this is your only job offer and you need to take a job because your postdoc is running out, your BATNA might be in a different position from your institutions, which may really want you, but also understand that if you are unwilling to compromise in certain aspects of the package, they might offer somebody else. Or if you have multiple job offers and the institution really, really wants you in this role, that might be something that you can leverage for a better offer. So finding your best alternative, and generally what happens if the negotiation fails, you don't get the role, what does that mean for you? What does that mean for the institution? Can help frame how strongly or weakly you push on a particular aspect that you want to negotiate. We can dive more in the in-person workshop, but these are some additional resources for you on the Chalk Talk, on common interview questions during your in-person interview, and certainly negotiating your job offer. There is a lot of business-related videos out there on LinkedIn and elsewhere that can talk about just negotiation in general. And these are some specific negotiation strategies for negotiating academic startup packages for what you would need to succeed. So next steps, well, our last live workshop will be April 15th, 2026. We'll talk about any of the material here. We're going to do a deep dive into some case studies to help you identify ways that not only when they're interviewing you, you can be interviewing them. And then we will also bring in a FAFSA Mosaic Fellow who has successfully negotiated their startup package to gain insight into the things that they were thinking about when they were negotiating for their current faculty role. So again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you.